Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Layiq Sediqi, a conscious holophase, all alone in an infinite holophase universe. Remember the language we are learning. There is one field, phi, the holophase, one continuous cyclic movement from which all of reality unfolds. When phi begins to change, its first derivatives appear, and with them, the three dimensions show themselves at once: time as omega, space as k, and motion as v, built from both. Every higher derivative is a finer question about how phi changes, and each one casts three shadows together: a time shadow, a space shadow, and a motion shadow. These echoes mix and weave into one another, forming the patterns we call fields, particles, bodies, thoughts, and worlds. In this picture, everything that exists is a living tapestry of phi, endlessly echoing through its derivatives and their dimensional shadows. Today, we listen to just one of those echoes. We have reached the threshold. In the first part of this episode, we surveyed the vast territory we've covered, from the first principles of a single field to the grammar that writes physics. In the second, we laid out the engineering roadmap, the ladder of skills from reading to stewardship. Now, in this third part, we step through the door. This is the preface. It's the moment before the first tool is picked up, the first measurement is taken. It's where we set the tone, the rules, and the one non-negotiable law for everything that follows. The anchor image for this entire journey is the workshop. Not a futuristic lab of sterile white and humming servers, but an ancient workshop. Think of a stonemason's yard at dawn, cool and quiet, dust motes floating in slanted light. Think of a luthier's bench, the air thick with the scent of spruce and shellac. Think of a blacksmith's forge, dark but for the banked coals, waiting. It is a place of worn, familiar tools, each with a purpose shaped by generations of use. It's a place of focused attention, where the material, wood, stone, metal, or in our case, the phase field phi, is listened to, not just commanded. The craftsman knows that oak splits differently than ash, that granite holds an edge that sandstone will not. Our material is the most fundamental of all, the coherent structure of reality itself. To work with it, we must first learn its grain, its resonance, its tendencies. You are about to enter that workshop. Your goal here is not to learn a new fact, but to undergo a shift in identity, from observer to participant, from student to artisan, bound by a deeper safety principle than any human law. The bridge from understanding to doing, the three pillars. Let's place this moment in the grand arc. Holophase understanding rests on three pillars. Pillar 1, Episode 8, the alphabet. Here, we learn the fundamental unit of meaning. Not the atom, not the particle, but the phase field, phi. A single, continuous, cyclic quantity. Its value at any one point is almost meaningless. Its power is in its change. A constant phi is a silent, featureless void. But let phi begin to vary from here to there, from now to then, and the world erupts into being. That first derivative is the first whisper of dimension. The trio phis over ta, omega, times urgency, phi, k-vector, space's texture, and their child v, motion, the narrative that connects them. Every higher derivative, every finer question about how phi curls, accelerates, focuses, adds detail, structure, personality to the world. This was our first revolution. Everything is made of questions asked of a single field. Pillar 2, Episode 9, the grammar. We learned that these questions and answers are not random. They obey rules, profound, beautiful, constraining rules. Constraints. If you know how phi changes in space, the k-vector, the grammar often tells you how it must change in time, omega. This is a dispersion relation, a law linking space echo and time echo. Conservation laws. Certain patterns of change, certain curls and flows of phi, cannot be created or destroyed, only moved around. This is charge, momentum, energy. Symmetries. The rules look the same from here as from there, from now as from then. This grammar is the universe's syntax. It's why the stories it tells are consistent, why physics is possible, why a thrown ball follows a parabola and light bends around a star. We learned to read these stories. We became literate. Pillar 3, Episode 10, Fluency and Craft. This is where we now stand. Literacy is not fluency. You can read a poem in a language and understand its words, but can you write one that makes a native speaker weep? You can read sheet music, but can you compose a melody that haunts a room? Fluency is active, it's generative. It's the ability to not just parse sentences, but to speak them, to introduce new, coherent clauses into the ongoing conversation of the universe. But, and this is the most important but in our entire journey, this is not a power fantasy. The universe is not a passive lump of clay. It is not a blank canvas waiting for our graffiti. It is a vast, ancient, dynamic, and resonant system. It has deep preferences baked into the grammar we just learned. It has a fundamental intolerance for certain kinds of nonsense. Try to speak gibberish and it will not listen. Try to impose a wish that violently contradicts its syntax, and the wish will decay, shatter, or rebound upon you in ways both predictable and terrifying. Therefore, all true engineering in the Holophase paradigm is not control in the brute force sense. It is coherence-constrained negotiation. It is the craft of finding what the universe is already inclined to do, and gently, precisely, guiding that inclination towards an outcome that serves a purpose. We build not by imposition, but by invitation. We build by finding and fostering resonant structures that want to exist. We ensure safety by becoming exquisitely sensitive to dissonance, the first grating note of a destructive resonance, and damping it before it becomes a cacophony that tears things apart. Every tool, protocol, and ethical rule in this episode is a manifestation of this principle. This preface is where we internalize it, so it becomes the air we breathe in the workshop. The Coherence Selection Principle, the universe's unbreakable law. Let's state this principle now, in the simplest, clearest terms possible. It is the golden rule of Episode 10. You will hear it echo in every skill, every tool, every protocol. It is the Coherence Selection Principle. Constructive resonance, alignment, harmony. When the parts of a pattern are in phase, when their changes reinforce each other, when they agree, the pattern persists. It stabilizes, it amplifies, it becomes real in the most durable sense. Energy settles into it, information can be stored in it, it inherits the future. Destructive interference, dissonance, conflict. When the parts of a pattern are out of phase, when their changes fight each other, when they contradict, the pattern decays. It cancels, it fragments, it is erased. Energy scatters from it, information is lost, it is selected against. The universe is a giant, continuous, unforgiving coherence filter. At every moment, at every scale, it is sifting patterns. It is asking, does this hang together? Does this make consistent sense within the grammar? Does this part resonate with that part? Look around with this lens. A laser beam is coherent light. All its electromagnetic waves march in lockstep, peak to peak, trough to trough. That's why it can travel far, cut steel, carry data. Random, incoherent light, a light bulb, scatters and diffuses. A superfluid is coherent matter. Its phi field is locked in phase across billions of atoms. That's why it flows without friction, climbs walls, exhibits quantum behavior on a macroscopic scale. Normal fluid is incoherent. Its internal phases are jumbled, leading to friction and viscosity. A healthy heart rhythm is a coherent biological oscillation. The muscle cells fire in a synchronized wave. Fibrillation is incoherence, a chaotic, self-canceling storm of electrical activity that is lethal. A functioning ecosystem is coherent. Energy and nutrient flows are in dynamic, stable balance. Species interact in reinforcing networks. A collapsing ecosystem has lost that coherence. Flows are blocked, interactions become parasitic or break down. Incoherence is the primary failure mode of all complex systems, and thus the primary engineering hazard. Noise is incoherent signal. Chaos is incoherent order. A shattered glass is an incoherent version of a cup. A seizure is an incoherent version of thought. A runaway nuclear reaction is a loss of coherence in neutron population dynamics. So here is the point, the core of our craft. Our engineering must work with this law, not against it. We don't get to wish for anything. We must negotiate with coherence. We are like gardeners, not assemblers. We prepare the soil, the boundary conditions, plant a seed Phi pattern, and provide the right environment. But the growth, the form it takes, that is a negotiation between the seed's inherent potential and the laws of botany, the grammar. We cannot make an oak grow into a rose, but we can prune it, guide it, ensure it gets sun and water so it becomes the most magnificent, stable oak possible. Our mantra, repeated on every workbench before every experiment, is this: if coherence breaks, we stop. If coherence returns, we continue. This is not a suggestion. It is the first and last protocol. A tour of the workshop, the benches of capability. Now, let's walk slowly through the workshop itself. Imagine the dawn light growing stronger, illuminating one bench after another. Each bench represents a book in Episode 10, a cluster of skills. We won't use the tools yet. We'll just see them, understand their purpose, and feel the dependency, the order in which they must be learned. Bench 1, Language Fluency, Book 10.1. This is the bench closest to the door. Here lie the lenses, the decoders, the ear trumpets. Your first task is not to change the world, but to see and hear it clearly. The universe speaks in Phi, but our sensors are crude. They give us intensities, voltages, pixel values, a noisy, tangled mess. On this bench, you'll learn the art of phase retrieval. You'll take that mess and, using the logic of the grammar, reconstruct the clean, continuous Phi landscape hiding beneath. It's like developing a blurred, overexposed photograph into a crisp image. Here, you'll also build your pattern library. You learn to recognize the common clauses, the smooth jet, a calm, predictable flow, the wave clause, a traveling ripple with its omega and k in a precise dance, the defect punctuation, a vortex, a dislocation, where the phase story twists into a knot. This bench teaches you to read. Reading Phi isn't a snapshot. You must track its, does the pattern repeat, drift, oscillate? Is it smooth, jagged, fractal? And the motion that connects them. Where is this pattern going? A successful reading is one where the reconstructed Phi is internally consistent. The derivatives you calculate from it should satisfy the basic constraints of the grammar. If they don't, your reading is incoherent noise. Bench 2, Measurement Engineering, Book 10.2. This bench is for the metrologists, the masters of calibration. Here are the calipers, the tuning forks, the standard weights. Knowing Phi is one thing. Measuring its properties with quantified, trustworthy precision is another. Here, you'll build the eyes and ears of a Phi civilization. You'll learn to measure omega, the temporal frequency, and k, the spatial wave vector, not as symbols, but as error-barred fields from real data. You'll learn the craft of topological detection, finding those defect knots and assigning them their unambiguous integer charge, +1, -1, etc., by walking a logical loop around them. Most crucially, you'll learn calibration and standardization. Your lab's Phi might be in units of laser wavelength. Mine might be in units of water tank depth. To collaborate, we need the Holophase Language Standard, HLS, a universal reference frame. This bench teaches you to measure and agree. Measurement itself has a triunity: the time of measurement, the space it covers, and the motion it induces. Coherence gate. Measurement is valid only within a licensed window, a defined range of energy, scale, or complexity where your tools and models are calibrated. Reporting data outside this window without massive error bars is incoherent. Bench 3. Fine Programming, Book 10.3. Now we move to the drafting table. Here are compasses, T-squares, and the first logic boards. You can read and measure. Now you can write. You'll design a programming language for Phi. Its primitives won't be int or string, but seed Phi, impose bordered, create defect. You'll write programs like form a standing wave here, or braid these 3 defects, but you will never run them on reality first. You will run them in the digital twin, a perfect software mirror of your testbed living on a powerful machine on this bench. The twin is your sketchpad, your wind tunnel. Here, you learn the most vital craft, the iterative reality debugging loop. Write program, run in twin, see it fail in some subtle way, diagnose why. Was the gradient too steep? Did it hit a resonance? Fix code, repeat. This bench teaches you to specify intent and debug against physics. A program must specify the temporal sequence of actions, the spatial region they affect, and the motion or transformation they are meant to achieve. A program passes its coherence gate only when it runs in the twin and produces a stable, persistent output that matches the specification. If the output flickers chaotically or decays, the program's logic is incoherent with the simulated physics. Bench 4. Reality Engineering. Book 10.4. This is the forge. The air is warmer here. Here are the actuators, the final machinery. This is where software meets matter. You'll tour the phi foundries, the real machines that can paint phi patterns onto the world. The quantum foundry, ultra-cold atoms, superconducting circuits, is a nanoscale scribe, exquisitely precise but fragile. The photonic foundry, laser arrays, spatial light modulators, is a rapid prototyper for light. The acoustic foundry, speaker arrays, is a macroscale demonstrator you can feel in your bones. You learn to design materials as frozen phi sentences, metamaterials that bend sound or light in impossible ways. You learn field engineering, sculpting electromagnetic fields into focus beams or silent holes. And you learn topological engineering, creating, moving, and braiding defects as robust operations for information processing. This bench teaches you to build in reality. Every engineered structure must be evaluated for its temporal stability. Does it last? Its spatial containment. Does its effect leak out? And the motion it generates or controls. Coherence gate, the ultimate test. The output of the foundry, when measured, must match the prediction of the digital twin, within the calibrated error margins of both. A persistent mismatch means your model of the foundry's physics is wrong, a deep incoherence you must fix. These are the first 4 benches, the core of the physical craft. But the workshop has deeper rooms, for the craft becomes civilization. The back rooms. Information systems, book 10.5. The looms and networks. Here, phi becomes the medium for communication, memory, and computation. How do you send a message with a vortex beam? Store data in a topological knot? Build a computer whose hardware is a phi field. Biological and cognitive interface, the delicate probes. Here we ask, is the brain a phi processor? Can we listen to its phase melodies? Could we ever, with immense caution, entrain a disordered rhythm back to health? This room requires the humility of a surgeon. Societal transformation. The architect's table. What does an economy look like when it accounts for coherence budgets? How does governance function when reality can be measured and edited? How do you educate an entire civilization in this literacy? Ethics, safety, and stewardship. The vault and the guardhouse. This room holds the unbreakable protocols. Containment fields, rollback procedures, tamper-evident audit logs for reality itself, and the long-term archives meant to survive millennia. The quiet library at the very back. This is not about more power. It's about the wisdom of limits. Knowing what sentences are unwritable in any consistent universe. It's about the integration of skill, ethics, and aesthetics into the complete human, and the final act of passing the torch, so the workshop never goes dark. The tri-unity of engineering, seeing in 3 dimensions. In this workshop, on every bench, we will think in 3 echoes simultaneously. It is not enough to get the spatial pattern right. We must get its behavior in time and its capacity for motion right as well. Let's make this concrete with a simple example. Designing a phi patch, a small region where we temporarily alter the effective rules, like making light seem to move slower there. The time echo, we must ask, how long can this patch be sustained? Does it set up a standing wave that builds energy over seconds until it ruptures? Does it have a natural rhythm we must drive it at, or will it drift out of sync and collapse? Our design must ensure temporal coherence. The patch must be stable for its intended duration without developing destructive internal beats. The space echo, we must ask, where does the patch end? Is its boundary sharp, causing violent scattering? Or is it graded, gently blending back into normal reality? Does the patch's internal texture, its feel landscape, have any tears or singularities that will focus energy and tear it apart? Our design must ensure spatial coherence, a smooth, contained structure. We must ask, what happens when something moves through the patch? Will a particle be deflected as predicted? Will a wave be bent, or will it scatter chaotically? Does the patch itself induce any unwanted flows in the surrounding medium? Our design must ensure dynamical coherence. The motion it creates or modifies must be consistent and predictable. A failure in any one echo can doom the project. A patch that is spatially perfect but temporally resonant will act like a ringing bell until it shatters. One that is temporally stable but has a jagged boundary will shred anything that comes near. Our engineering is holistic, listening to the whole triad. Prediction and falsifiability, the workshop's ledger. This workshop runs on a strict ledger of accountability. This is not mysticism, it is engineering. Every tool, every method, every claim we develop is defined by a strict contract. 1. What you can measure, the raw data, the sensor output. 2. What you can predict. Given that data in our model, what should happen next? What number should come out of the machine? 3. How you know if you are wrong. What specific outcome would force you to admit your model or method is broken? This is our prediction spine and falsifiability thread. They are the steel reinforcement inside every bench. Let's see them at work on two different benches. On bench 1, reading phi, prediction spine, as we increase the signal-to-noise ratio of our sensor by a factor of 4, the uncertainty in our reconstructed phi map should be cut in half. The residuals, the difference between our reconstruction and a known truth in the twin, should shrink in a predictable, smooth curve. Falsifiability thread. If we take two fundamentally different but well-justified reconstruction algorithms and feed them the same high-quality data, and they produce two irreconcilably different phi maps, disagreement far larger than their error bars, then our core assumption fails. The data may not be coming from a simple phi field in the first place. We must go back, relicense our window, or look for more complex grammar. On bench 5, phi communication, prediction spine. Our phi-based communication system, which encodes bits in the topological charge of defects, will show an error cliff. The bit error rate will be nearly zero until the channel noise exceeds a specific threshold that destroys topology. Then it will suddenly jump to 50%, random. Falsifiability thread. If, in a fair blinded test, our fancy phi system has a higher bit error rate than a standard classical modulation scheme using the same power and bandwidth, then our claimed advantage is theoretical, not practical. The system, as built, fails. This mindset is our immune system against self-delusion. It turns grand claims into testable hypotheses. It means our progress is real, measurable, and cumulative. A failed prediction isn't a tragedy. It's the most valuable data point, showing us where our understanding is incomplete. The ethics of coherence. Protocol, not poetry. In this workshop, ethics is not a plaque on the wall or a sermon at the end of the day. It is the engineering discipline required by the Coherence Selection Principle. The universe's ethical law is already written into physics. Destructive patterns annihilate themselves and risk annihilating what's around them. Therefore, we translate abstract ethics into operational protocol. Consent becomes an integrity analysis. Before altering a complex coherent phi pattern, a neural circuit, an ecosystem, we must have a model that predicts how to preserve its core integrative structure. If we cannot model that, we lack the ethical license to intervene. Containment is a physical design specification. Every experiment, especially a patch, must have a defined spatial boundary with phi firewalls, buffered zones where the phase is pinned or damped to zero, preventing leakage. Reversibility is an engineering prerequisite. No experiment begins without a verified saved restore point, a known stable phi state we can revert to at any moment. The rollback procedure is tested before the main experiment. Auditability is a logging protocol. Every authorized phi intervention is logged in a distributed ledger, not with text, but with its HLS-encoded phi signature, before and after, witnessed by multiple independent sensors. This creates a tamper-evident history of reality. Power without coherence is self-destruction. The universe itself will be the enforcer. Our ethical framework is simply the set of rules we impose on ourselves to listen to that enforcement long before catastrophe strikes. It is the craftsperson's respect for the material, knowing that forcing it will break the work and likely the tool as well. The journey ahead, one step at a time. As we move, part by part, through this episode, we will climb the master tree of capability. It is a strict ladder. Each skill is a branch that depends on the solidity of the branch below it. You cannot program what you cannot measure. You cannot safely engineer what you cannot simulate and debug. You cannot build a civilization without guardrails. You cannot claim mastery without integrating skill, ethics, and aesthetics. We will make mistakes. This is guaranteed. But in this workshop, mistakes are planned for. They happen first in the digital twin, where a crash simulation is a lesson, not a disaster. Then, they happen in small, contained testbeds, where a failed pattern merely dissipates as heat and a log entry. Each mistake is a lesson in coherence. Each success is a lesson in alignment. If you want to see the full mathematical derivations and exact equations behind this idea, you can search for Holophase on Zenodo. There you will find the scientific papers that this audio journey is built on. This preface is your final orientation. You are now standing in the doorway of the workshop. The tools are on the benches, illuminated by pools of light. The air is still, charged with potential. Ahead lies the most challenging, meticulous, and rewarding work imaginable. Learning to speak, thoughtfully and responsibly, in the universe's own language. To move from reading its stories to writing short, beautiful, and stable sentences of our own. We begin with the most humble, most essential skill of all. Before we can write poetry, we must learn to see the ink. Before we can compose symphonies, we must learn to hear individual notes. Before we can build cathedrals, we must learn to dress a stone. So, let's take our first quiet step onto the sawdust floor. Let's walk to the first bench, where the lenses are clean and the data stream waits, noisy and mysterious. Let's learn to read fine. We have now crossed the definitive threshold from theory to practice. We have one field, phi, with its infinite tower of derivative questions. We have the triunity of its changes, time, space, motion, as our constant guide. We have the Coherence Selection Principle as our unbreakable golden rule, our source of both power and safety. And we have the entire workshop of Episode 10 laid out before us, bench by bench, a ladder of capability leading from literacy to stewardship. The journey of craft begins with a single, precise observation. In the next part, we will put our hands on the first tool, transform noise into meaning, and recover a landscape from a blur. Salam and peace be upon you.